Hello, hello, hello. Oh, it's auto saving. But yeah, today I'm just gonna be continuing with Bolt. Well, first off, hello and welcome to the stream where I'll just be sculpting Bolt and oh my god, terrible at this. But no. So I actually changed this a bit so that you can actually see the reference that I'm working from. But today I'm gonna try to focus more on his hands. I think like most artists, I actually hate working on hands and fists. Oh shit, this is like the same thing. I actually hate working on hands. Um, I don't know. There's just some weird thing. I'm gonna try to like practice in my own time. Probably like spend an hour or two a day just working on different hand sculpts and hopefully just getting better at it. Just reading up more material because I do have some books on this type of stuff I have been reading, but action does a lot more than just studying. So I'm gonna go ahead and start jumping into this today. All right, so actually, let me actually play some music for myself. I do have the stream open on the side, so I can always like read if I need to. All right, so this guy. All right, so I am gonna start with this. All right. So now, it's just one hand. So what I want to do for this is actually
A beautifully designed Squarespace website is the difference between your parents telling everyone you're thinking about law school and telling everyone you're a photographer. Between sort of thinking about selling those cookies you just give away for free and running your cookie empire. Between having a movie reviewing hobby and a movie reviewing career. Because no matter what you're into, a website makes it real. Use offer code Spotify for 10% off your website or domain.
The light is fading, your aims are sore, and the last
Okay, now I kind of want to do different kind of look for that.
Ford Pro Fin Simple offers flexible financing solutions for all kinds of businesses, whether you're an electrician or run an organic farm. Because we know that your business demands financing that works when you need it, like when your landscaping company lands in your account. Wherever you see your business headed, Ford Pro Fin Simple can help you pursue it with financing solutions today. Get started at fordpro.com/financing. Fancy Feast brings you this simple expression of pure delight. We hope you enjoy it as much as your cat adores every impeccable, delectable, chef-inspired recipe. Fancy Feast. Love is in the details.
I'm having connection issues. Looks like I'm gonna keep sculpting, but today I was pretty much just focused on trying to like block the hands in a bit more, and I think I did that with at least this hand. After this, it's just going to be going up subdivision level and then continuing to refine. So I keep doing that with this hand because it looks really bad. But yeah, I'm getting there. It's process. It needs to be done. So, and you know, I think that's like the biggest thing for me. It's just lately I've been getting more and more drawn to just the idea of enjoying the process, and I don't know, I think that's what's driving me to keep you know, doing this. I enjoy this process. It's almost meditative. I think that's why for me it's I get so quiet when I sculpt. I don't even realize it. I'm just in a trance almost. And that's not just because I have new Java is playing. That's, you know, just enjoying it. Let's see, front. I'm just enjoying catching the shapes, getting the idea of like, you know, when it's gonna get to a place that I like, and knowing that it will get there. And I think that's like another aspect to it, and I've already spoken on this, I think, but it's just ultimately at the end of the day, like, you know, when you're sculpting, don't worry about, I mean, like, maybe professionally for work, definitely worry about the outcome of what it is that you're sculpting. But in general, like, if you're sculpting for you, you're sculpting to have fun, just enjoy the process, because you'll get to the destination you need to. There's no point in rushing it. And I think if speed is really the thing that you're the most concerned about, I think just understand that that's something that'll come with time. And even if it doesn't, you know, because not everybody is going to be pretty fast with sculpting, but that doesn't make you any less of an artist. You know, if you don't use, for example, the mainstream tools that you know, we're told to use in the industry, doesn't make you any less of a sculptor, doesn't make you any less of an artist. I think, you know, one thing I really love is seeing artists using different mediums to express themselves, and you know, how long that takes, again, don't worry about that, you'll get there. Just make something that you like. I think that's the toughest mindset to adopt, I'm not gonna lie, but it's so important to me. And you know, that's the thing, it's like there's so many different ways to create anything, at least like in the sculpting world. There's like hundreds of ways that you can sculpt anything, and I'm trying to keep this in the sculpting realm as much as I can, but you know, just there's definitely tried and true ways of creating X, Y, and Z, like say like the hand, for example. There's definitely a better way to do this, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know, I think it's just as important to, you know, make sure that you're developing your own workflow, because we're all different. For some of us it works to have that structure of like already existing workflows, and for some of us it doesn't, like me. I kind of, I just enjoy figuring out new ways to do the same thing. And for me, I kind of made a habit of just choosing the hard way to do things opposed to the easy way. And of course, I do understand that not everybody's situation is the same, at the end of the day. So that's something to think about when it comes to any workflow, is that, yeah, just it's just that idea that at the end of the day, not everybody is coming at this from the same position, you know. As my mind begins to wander, as I get more and more into this sculpt. Yeah, like everybody's gonna have their different workflows. Like I know people who work strictly in Blender because it's free and it's new, and they can't exactly afford to pay for something like ZBrush or Maya. That's one thing I really love about Blender, is that it's making an effort to be friendly to the beginner. Not everybody has access to hundreds and thousands of dollars to buy all these kinds of software. And even in the case of like using it for free, say you do get a job that gives you the pay that you're able to actually afford it, but not everybody can just immediately put those funds into like software. I think I was pretty lucky in being able to buy so much software, but not everybody's in that position. So just use whatever tool. At least that's my philosophy, is just using whatever tool you can, and to make your thing. Because the other thing, I've been watching Foot Normals, and one of the biggest things they say is like the fundamentals, and I think that's completely true. At the end of the day, it's like it doesn't matter which sculpting software you're using if you don't really understand form. If you don't understand primary shapes, secondary shapes, tertiary forms, and how to transition between those. Yeah, there's, let's twist. Do this whole thing actually. Yeah, this is gonna be the front, so I gotta be really. I'll probably like shift this hand around quite a bit, because again, like this is gonna be the hand that it's gonna be the most visible or the most prominent, because it's the hand that he's leading with. Yeah, let's get back to this. Yeah. But yeah, just in general, like whenever you're working on anything, just keep that in mind, that like it doesn't really matter what software that you're using. And I don't mean this to say like, oh well, you'll be able to get a job working only in Blender. Like, I mean, you most likely will, to be honest, considering that it's like changing the industry in a way. But just in general, you want to make sure you're comfortable with the process. Just comfortable, having fun. I guess that's like the biggest thing for me. It's like, if you're having fun. I get that people say like, you gotta grind and shit, but personally, I being an American, I think we have to learn work and play. Like, well, we have to learn relaxation, because life isn't about work. And as much as like I get that people have bills and we have to, at the end of the day, it's like we got shit we gotta pay for, and like this is a very competitive field. Your mental health is just as important. Like, Your mental health is just as important, you know. So do not kill yourself. Like if you like, I feel like any industry that you're going into, but in general, just the creative industry, I think there's a level of honesty that needs to be had, and in order to create your best pieces, in my opinion, which is why I think the best piece, and I was telling my girlfriend this the other day, I think the best piece that you make as an artist is your first piece. Um, and the reason why is because you don't know what you're doing, but you're still doing it. And there's a lot of honesty in the work that you create there. All the mistakes, all the things that you might have accidentally done well. After that, it's kind of downhill. But no, but it's just in general. I think in life you gotta, well, in art you gotta think about your mental health just as much as you're thinking about the realistic component of competition. Because don't fucking kill yourself because you want to be at the top of a fucking social media page. Like, even in the context of social media is fake as shit, bro. Like, sometimes, I don't know, it's fake as shit. And I think, and I don't say this in an angry kind of way. Like, I just think it's important to understand that your life is real. The people in your life is real. Like, you know, make use of those connections and focus on that. Don't put so much weight into social media that you kind of just lose yourself. That's just me though. This is what I think. And I guess in a way I'm speaking from experience. I think in my career path, I kind of put so much emphasis on studying and just trying to chase perfection that you kind of forget why you even jumped into art in the first place. Like, I doubt anybody's. I think art is like one of those industries or just one of those fields that it's like people seldom jump into it because they want to be rich and famous. A lot of the times people jump into the art field because they just love it. You know? At least that's my impression, because that's why I jumped into it. It's because I just love it. I love creating stuff. So I think, you know, regardless of what it is that you're doing, make sure that when you're creating something, you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you want to get the most likes or the most engagement. Like, do it because you want to create cool shit. Hey, what's up, Nuno? How's it going? I'm just rambling about the art stuff,
What if laptop performance
making
was
hands.
reborn with AI? Boost your productivity with the Snapdragon
And I guess, you know,
7
this kind of like
platform
draws
Vega.
into the context
Shop
of,
now at bestbuy.com.
or the dilemma of AI in the art field and like how that'll, you know, shift how we begin to view ourselves as artists. I mean, I think so. I was listening to this video from Sideshow. Will Harbottle is like one of my favorite artists. One of, I have like so many favorite sculptors, but he was saying that like a lot of traditional sculptors initially hated ZBrush, and they hated it because it was like digital sculpting, and to them that wasn't real sculpting. But look at where we are now, where now it's like we're arguing, no, digital sculpting is where it's at, and AI, that's not real, you know? Like, so the argument constantly changes, and you know, it's, and another question that came up to me was, I was talking to a roommate of mine who's also an artist, and like, we were talking about the dilemma of like, who's the artist, the paintbrush or the artist themselves, because say I used to work for like a studio directly under an art director, and you know, I would say I remember, I guess like it's something that I think about for myself, but he didn't like when I said the arts that I sculpted were arts that I created, you know. And I think it was, looking back, I think maybe he could have worded that better, because at the end of the day, it's like it's him, the art director, who's telling me what to create, and I'm not like coming up with it myself. So arguably, even if I'm sculpting it, it's not technically my work. So the question becomes, how far does that go, especially when we bring up AI? You know, like how are we still the artists if we're now typing in the prompt? You know, wouldn't we be? Yeah, just a thought, I guess. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I've always been in the art or adjacent to the art field. I've always been in so many different aspects of it, and for me, it's very hard to be competitive. I mean, I've even growing up, I've played like almost every sport. You know, I was in college. I was actually on the basketball team. In middle school, I was on the basketball team. I played soccer. Well, actually, no, soccer is the only sport that I actually wasn't on a team for. I was on baseball teams. I was on a football team, even though I couldn't take anybody down. Um, okay, that's coming together, but I think this is maybe a little bit too over there. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I'm just not the competitive type, and I feel like if you feel like you have to if you feel like in order for your art to be art, you have to be competitive. Is it really art? You know, like, are you making it for yourself or are you making it for other people? I guess that's like the question that comes to me. You know, like I don't know. And I guess like for me, I get jaded, you know, because like I see the sculpts that get the most likes. It's like Spider-Man, Wolverine, Deadpool, and it's like it's like now it becomes like at least like it becomes a conversation about consumerism, and it's like, are you just making like I guess art is in that way it's like extremely subjective, you know, like is it still your art if you're making it for other people? I don't know. I guess that's why the dilemma of AI becomes like a very interesting topic for me because it's like, are we really like, are we just upset that AI can make what we were already gonna make faster, or is it because it's using our work? Because you know, one of there's like that saying about like being as an artist or as a creative, because it's not just in sculpting. It's like in so many other fields, especially writing and storytelling. It's the idea. Oh shoot! Uh, when this happens, maybe there's a way I can do this. This is masking, poly loop. Let's do this. Oh, there we go. Uh, I don't know. These are just things I think about, and but yeah, everybody's got their own little process of art and what that means to them. I wonder, you know, like what kind of conversations. with a lot of the artists that we studied. Like, what would those conversations with them look like? You know, about AI and shit like that. Oh, booty. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to talk about more philosophical things as well, like within art, I would say one of the most interesting things that we've yet to really discuss or get into is just general politics. I think that it's so interesting to me that in the art field has become almost barren to the idea of political commentary, even though that's essentially what the arts have always been a form of protest in order to have political commentary. I remember reading, oh man, growing up, I love to read these like encyclopedia books, and I guess like I'm aging myself in this way, but you would always find them in the library just on various topics. But you know, I remember reading about the medieval ages and how like artists they would put secret messages in books uh, that only certain people would be able to catch on to, and a lot of that wasn't like some. Uh, I guess in some ways, it there were so what the fudge. There were some nefarious reasonings behind why certain things were said or done. Um, but just in general, the arts have always been an outlet for political discussion. I mean, being a comedian, like that whole thing was rooted in politics. I think in Greco-Roman history, comedians were looked to add some type of commentary to what was going on in politics. And I think, you know, being an artist, I think it's so interesting the time that we're living in now. And I mean, I think we all know what's going on. I don't even have to say it, but uh, I think I think we're just like in very interesting times where a lot of that artistry is being limited to superheroes, like the feeling of changing the world rather than actually creating something meaningful that does. And this isn't to say like people like Stan Lee weren't like they didn't have that in mind. I think they did. I remember listening to a panel where he was talking about that, about how, you know, that's why he made, say, like the X-Men, and why that was based off of the civil rights movement. It was to create awareness over the world that was going on. So for me, it's always very interesting when we see all of these things that were rooted in politics, like Star Wars, for example, it was inspired by the Vietnam War, and how like and the British Empire, for example, and it's like people are upset that it's like quote unquote woke, you know, and it's like, but this is what it's always been about. What do you mean it's woke? So it's just interesting when the discussion is no longer the same, but the mediums being used are. Like for me, even talking about this is a little nerve-wracking because I worry like, okay, what are people going to do or think about, you know, me saying this, you know? But okay, this definitely has to be like turned a little bit more. I think this might be a bit like this. Yeah, like this. Yeah, but for me, I think being a peer mediator really changed my perceptions on the idea of conflict and how important it actually is to have discussion, even if it's hard, even if it's a topic that can be divisive, and how important it actually is to continue to have these kinds of discussions, because if you don't, then how do you solve the problem? And I think, you know, that's the funny thing about this whole thing, is just that we live in a world where people will sooner want to talk about distractions. And this isn't to say I don't like, bro. You know, Demon Slayer. I've just been watching Demon Slayer. Actually, I already finished reading it, so I kind of know what's gonna happen. But yeah, Zenitsu, it's gonna be, you know, the movies they're gonna be fucking fire. I'm gonna watch those movies. I know I was watching House of the Dragon with my girlfriend. Like, I even watch Love Island with her sometimes. Like, this isn't to say I don't like partake and like watching shit and stuff like that, because I think we exist in this society, and to pretend like we don't is kind of wild, to be honest. But but I think the weirdest thing about society is that we don't have enough like we've made conversation about politics so volatile that even mentioning it becomes like like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation because people are afraid of like of confrontation. In my opinion, I think that's what it really is that people just don't like confrontation, and we're not taught. We're not, and again, like I'm bringing up the conflict resolution. We're not taught how to handle interpersonal conflict, and it's not as hard as we make. Like, I think it's frustrating. Yeah, it can be frustrating. It can be angering even, so much to the point that you're like, nah, I didn't want to have this conversation, you know. But it's like I said before, like, how do you even come up with solutions if you can't even talk about the problem? And I think that's the danger of not having political conversation, of not having political discourse, is the problems that create, how do you put it, the issues that create the problems that we then complain about, say like high rent or bills or groceries costing way too much, or even the conversation about like immigrants, for example. Like, we can't really have a constructive conversation because people are so afraid about having that conversation. We don't give ourselves room to learn about said topic or said conversation, you know? And I think that's like the hugest problem that we're facing right now, is that we don't leave room for that discourse, you know? And again, it's just, I don't know. There we go. I like that. Well, anyways, all right, let's see. So I do have to do some more for like his thighs. Let's get the thighs. I gotta get his chest. It definitely looks wonky as hell right now. But yeah, let's get his legs. You know, Daniel Bell is like one of the best, one of my favorite sculptors, first off. But I have so many. But I think he's a really great artist to look at his sculpts if you want to have like a quality bar. And you know, the reason why I work solo poly is usually I block out the character, like generally block them out. But here, you can actually see it better when I do this. And then I do like my little cuts here and there for different designs that I have in mind, because I already had an idea of like what I want to do for his outfit. Like even this thing, I might, if I can't redo this in a way that looks good for his pose that I'm going to give him, then I'll just like redo it. But everything else, like aside from like maybe resizing his boots, because his boots are a little too big. But yeah, most of this is like practically done. I just have to do it over. Like for this, I know for sure I'm probably gonna cut this part out and then redo it. Or better yet, I can just mask this inner part. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But let me get back to his legs. Okay, legs. Look at that. I don't have an anatomy reference for his legs. Gotta be mad. Let's do a general one. Oh, so BMN, Move in Infinite Depth, is actually a really cool brush because basically it moves everything like in a straight line from the camera. So like in the Z-axis, for example. So anything behind it, it's gonna move it as well. Whereas like BMV just moves everything along the normal. So, you know, it's only doing that. But yeah, usually I try to use BMN when I'm first starting out. or I'm just trying to get the form of certain things. I don't know. I was also keeping in mind like different parts of your sculpt, so you don't want to do it for everything, because if you do, then you can screw stuff up and not really realize it. So that's one thing to think about as well. And so thinking about like his thigh, so there's three muscles in the front, right? So the sartorius actually connects to the what's it, ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine, which is like this thing right here, and it originates from there, and it inserts on the tibia, which is like there's like a protrusion right here. If I just cut this in right here, there's a protrusion. There's a fibula as well, which is on this side. The tibia is like right here. It's like this, and then like it protrudes out, which is where you get like the malleolus. So you have the medial and the lateral malleolus. The lateral malleolus belongs to the tibia, which is this is like a tiny bone that's on the side or on the lateral side of the tibia, the fibula. Tibia, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so the insertions for these muscles are actually pretty interesting for the vastus medialis, the vastus lateralis, and the vastus intermedialis, which is the one in the middle. It's very interesting. So the vastus intermedialis originates the same place, just below the sartorius of the ASIS, and it inserts right above the patella through a ligament. So that's why whenever you see the medialis, there's always like a cut here, because there's not actually any mass. Well, ligaments, they do have mass, but they're too thin to actually change the surface. Instead, well, actually no, it does change the surface, but it more like flattens it rather than gives a convex kind of look. So it's more concave, if lack of a better term. So anyway, so we have the sartorius, and it kind of wraps over the vastus medialis. So let's do that. It goes here, and that's well, I guess like with higher poly, I'll do that. Oh shoot, what happened here? It must have been when I was. Okay, you know what? Let me see if I can do something real quick. Poly groups, auto groups, UVs. There we go. I get my UVs back again. And to be honest, I think I'm fine with this looking all weird, because I'll just do it over. Yeah, that's me not keeping in mind the rest of the sculpt. But anyways, so what I want to do here is let's see, what I want to do is, auto groups, do this. And the reason why is because later, because this is bent, I do want to give the illusion of like the fat kind of like interacting with this. So the vastus medialis, that's going to be protruding. Because again, like, okay, so another thing that I think about when it comes down to any of the gestures that I do is like how the muscles are actually moving, like the antagonist versus the muscles doing the action. Like in this case, it's actually flexion that's happening with the knee. So because it's flexion, you have the biceps, the hamstrings. These are going to be the ones that get engaged. So you're going to see a bit more of a bulge back here, whereas these, they kind of flatten a bit more, because during flexion, these are the antagonists to the hamstring. So these are extending, so they're stretching. a bit more. Maybe not so much the vastus lateralis. Like this, you can argue, because this actually inserts, well, it originates on the femur. So there's like a spine of the femur, like right here, and it kind of like originates there, and then like connects to, again, it connects to the patella through a ligament. That's why the patella is such an important bone that's also floating and usually gives people problems later on in life because there's a lack of stretching that goes on. So one medical advice when it comes down to your body in general is you want to move your body at least 10 to 15 minutes a day, not because you want to have like a fit body, but because it's more about joint movement. Your joints, they need to be lubricated in order to function properly, or to do their function. And I think when it comes down to the synovial joints, we have maybe, I forget, we have like a handful. I haven't, see, like, I should probably read this up again, but at least the medical side of this, but your ligaments, they need to be lubricated in order to move properly. So, you know, if you're living a more sedentary lifestyle, your body is going to think that's your normal. And eventually, because they aren't getting lubricated as often as they should, they'll begin to quote unquote dry up. And once they're dry, it'll be a lot harder to actually heal them, especially as we get older. Because as you get older, your body starts to slow down. So just in general, you generally want to try to be fit, not because you want to look good, but because you want to be able to use your body as you age. But anyway, so there's actually another muscle that I think it originates here and it inserts here. So this is usually the muscle that people see. It's not, so there's also the adductors here. It's like a group of muscles. I think it's like 4. Magnus, whatever, Majica. And these actually originate right below the, on the hip bone, not the hip bone, the pelvis, right below the pelvis. And they originate there, they insert on the femur too. But they'll be right below the sartorius. So you'll usually see it kind of like this. If I had to make like a muscle group, or at least if you can see what I'm doing. And I tend to try to stay as low as possible and just work my way up, honestly. Like I have these layers, but I just think it's a lot more work to fix things the higher you go than to fix them on a low quality. But anyway, so now we go back to the hamstrings, and the hamstrings are also connected to the base of the pelvis as well, right below the glutes. The glutes, they actually connect on the spine of the iliac crest, like right here. But there's actually 2. So you have the gluteus maximus, and then the gluteus medius, and then that inserts also on the trochanter of the femur. It's like a bone that sticks out right here. It connects right below that. But there's also, if I'm remembering correctly, definitely, you know, check this, because I'm kind of like speaking from memory, and I haven't studied this in quite some time, I'm not gonna lie to you. But there's also another gluteus muscle, which is up here, and it inserts on the ischial. No, it inserts on the femur as well. You don't really see that too often, because of how the fat deposits are. It kind of looks like just one big muscle. Unless you're like super muscular and have 0 fat on your body, then you can see it, which most superheroes tend to be for some reason. Let me do smooth direction. I like smooth direction because it's a little less destructive, in my opinion at least. But anyway, so that actually connects right here, and there's actually the ITB, the iliotibial band, which is connected also to the gluteus maximus, and it's kind of like holding the muscles in place in a way. So that's usually what you see when you see kind of like the change between the vastus lateralis, the lateral vastus medius, vastus, yeah, vastus lateralis. Let's do this as well. Do this. Let's do that. It's actually connected here, so let's do that. And then the intermedialis, usually the belly of the muscle kind of like, it isn't as long as it seems. It actually ends like right here, and then this is the ligament that's connecting to the patella. So that's usually why you don't really see too much of it. But anyway, so vastus medialis, that one's connected also to the femur as well, or at least the top of the femur. But it also inserts in the same, not the same place, but the patella through ligament as well. And this one becomes a little bit more prominent because the sartorius kind of like frames these muscles. So usually you'll have something like this. And let's cut that. And for me right now, I'm just like putting in general shapes. I'm not going too crazy with how it looks, but generally I just want the general shapes. And just and that's the thing, is like I try to keep in mind as well that like when you know you're doing your gestures, just keep in mind that the muscles have actions too, and they look differently based on those actions. And in this case, with the leg bent like this, the vastus muscles are extending, so they're flatter. They're not tense. It doesn't make sense for them to be tense because physically that's not possible. Yeah, what would be tense would be the hamstrings, and those connect down. Then you have the popliteal crease, which is where you'll see the gastrocs, which are two gastrocnemius, which are two muscles. The bellies are pretty big, usually the calves, I guess you could say. And but there's also the soleus, which is like right underneath the gastrocs, and that's going to give this part that little bump that you usually see. So the soleus, which is it's like right underneath the gastrocs, and it's like this. Well, there's two muscles here, but it's like another muscle right here, and then you have the anterior something, or I keep forgetting the name. There's like so many. It's just like the forearms, the lower leg. There's like so many muscles because you have to think about muscles that help with flexion, well, with extension of the toes and flexion of the toes as well. And these are all connected. These are all starting up here. But anyway, so we have the lateral malleolus, and this is going to be a bit higher because it's connected to the fibula. And then you have the medial malleolus, which is the tibia, which is like a protrusion at the base of the tibia. And if I had to like really cut this in, you can see that it would actually be like it's almost triangular, the end of the tibia. And these are the two parts that kind of protrude the most outside of this part right here. Here, let's bring this down so it makes a little bit more sense. And it kind of like flares out. Like this. And then you have there you go. And then at that point you have the metatarsals, which are connected, and they're not too different from the hands and the feet. The best way I can put this is like your arms and your legs have very similar muscle structures. Like the hamstrings are very similar to the triceps. I mean, they're very similar to the biceps in that it's for flexion, and then extension would be the triceps, which are kind of similar to the vastus muscles, the quads, I guess you could say. and I'm just doing like general, like I should probably be using reference to be honest. Um, I don't know. I just think it's pretty fun remembering where these things are and getting them right eventually. So here, and the reason why you have like usually there's a divot here on this side, actually on both sides, because the way the tibia is, it's kind of like a just think of like there's like a triangle here like this, and there's again another flare in the front like that, but it kind of like flares, kind of like bends a bit. It's one of the well, no, a lot of muscles. I mean, a lot of bones do the same thing. But yeah, flares like that. And I'm not too concerned about the lower leg now that I think about it because it's going to be mostly covered. And I do remember that I do want this to fit inside of the already existing boots. So I'm not going to do too much change with that. Instead, it's going to be more so this conforming to the boot. Let me turn off his clothes. If anything, I think maybe this has to be a bit further up. Yeah, keep it like this. Just so that this makes more sense. Okay. Alright. And honestly, like his face, like I blocked out like the direction that I want to go with it, and it's already asymmetrical, so I'm fine with doing a lot of asymmetrical sculpting. Honestly, like I said, like for a lot of this, I just want to have fun, I just want to enjoy creating something cool, and that's what I'm doing with this guy. I'm gonna create something really cool. Okay, so I think with his body, like that's generally blocked out. So at this point, this is where I'm gonna start doing like his other designs or other parts. Let's go ahead and do it. Oh no! Insert Z-sphere and scale. So no, I think okay. I'm gonna put that on the side for now, but I think the other thing that I want to do is okay. So there's two things that I want to do for like the base. So I know for the base, I want it to look like he's just said Shazam and he's like flying out of the smoke, but also I want that lightning bolt to still be there. Like I want lightning to still be present because you can see in a lot of his renditions, you can see like the lightning coming from the insignia on his chest, and I like that. That's pretty cool. I already have some experience doing lightning, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's like, should that be a prominent part of the statue? Oh, I think this needs to be turned a bit. No, his wrist should be turned. I'm just gonna turn his wrist. Oh. There we go. I don't really have to do that too much. But yeah, I'm liking the direction. I just have to, you know, proportions is just, I think I just have to really think about his proportions. But anyway, so I do want lightning to be present. I think his base, because I'm actually, oh wait, I actually deleted them, but there was actually a sculpt that a reference that I had of like Shazam, where there was like smoke, kind of like he's coming out of the smoke and there's lightning. So you know what? I think I like this idea, or this one, you know, where not exactly like the exact pose or whatever, but it's just the concept of the smoke and then the lightning. So I just have to figure that out. Like, how do I want that to ultimately look? Like, I know the base, for me, in my opinion, I think the base, it makes sense for it to be smoke. So something like this. But the question is like, wait, you know? Like, if I do something like this, oh, you know what? I might, maybe I can just rotate the entire model a bit higher, like at another angle. Like right now it's like facing this way, so maybe like this, a little bit higher like this instead, just so that he's not too far out. Because and then if I do that, then I think I can have the lightning be behind him, like almost like it's shooting into, actually no, I don't have to do it that way. Let's do a Q. So if I do it, so something like this. Because again, like I'm thinking, you know, this with this lightning behind him, kind of like being that light, and I might actually get that Batman sculpt that Daniel Bell did, and look at that as like reference. But something like this, and then let's just do a quick Dynamash, and not me needing reference. I was just not gonna do this big. Something like this. Yeah, stream is almost gonna be over. Not this big, but just like something behind him that to show like, oh shit, he just did the lightning shit, you know, and then lightning kind of arcing from his chest. That's what I want to use his Easter for. But this ground just being flat like that, you know, so it's like maybe his boot itself is kind of like inside of it, which I don't mind doing. And I guess it's pretty simple, but here, if I put his coat and I have that, like his coat is definitely gonna, I'm gonna do some work with the coat. Let me actually just do that now. Okay, let's do it by normals. Shoot, I don't want to do that. Let's do our groups. There we go. When it comes down to stuff like this, for me, it's just easier to work with when it's just flat, opposed to having thickness. And that's just something that works best for me. Because now at this point, I can either use dynamics and try to do that, but I think I'm going to do it by hand. Because I like to be able to control it. But anyways, like, even with the cloak, or his coat, I can probably exaggerate it a bit like this too. But generally, I do want to give the impression that he's flying as well with it. So I think his coat can be a good example or a good way to control the direction. And so will the smoke. So you know what I'm thinking with the smoke is like it's like coming out like this, you know, something like that. And of course, like it's the bulbs or whatever, and it's like maybe like wrapping around him or something like that. And something like this. What the heck? BSH, I guess is the. There we go. Yeah, something like this. I mean, not exactly like this, but just like it's attached to him. The smoke is at least as much as it's like dispersing or whatever. And this is rough. This isn't exactly what I'm gonna do, but something like this. Something like this. Let's turn that off again. Then of course, like his pants, I already have that cut out properly. Of course, I'll have to use if I go to brush, bunch of brushes, smooth groups. I'll have to do this just to straighten those a bit more. Yeah, this will definitely have its challenges going forward, but I'm happy I did it now rather than waiting till later. There we go. That looks weird, but I think I'll just look up reference for that, for the smoke, just so I can get an idea of like how to do that, because it's almost like liquid. I do want to give the impression that it's kind of like he's flying out of it, so that's going to be something that is important as well. But yeah, most of the sculpt for like most of the stream is probably going to be, or at least the next few streams is going to be me focusing on his anatomy. I think I am going to have to get a little bit more reference. But in general, I think I'm going in a direction that I like. Got his hands mostly done. Again, like I'll just go up a subdivision level and start on those. But in general, I'm just going to keep going until his body is pretty much done. But you know, thank you for those who did join the stream and, you know, type in the chat. I wish I had seen that message, but I do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for joining. I hope that you have a great week, great day. I'll be streaming at the same time tomorrow as well. And I'm just going to be jumping in and out of other people's streams. Yeah. All right. Thanks.